I'm good, I'll be I'll die, I'll be, I'll die, I'll be, I'll die, I'll be.
Hey everybody, it is the Black White Liberal. Thank you for tuning in today. I normally do my drops on Saturday or my lives, but today is Sunday. It's Thanksgiving weekend, and so just didn't have time to do it. Was too busy relaxing and enjoying my break, and I hope that you all had a chance to relax and enjoy your break as well. But we are here, so welcome to the show. This is the week of Thanksgiving. Like I just said, today's Sunday. Thanksgiving was Thursday. It was a very busy week in the news as usual. I don't know how we're going to be able to cope once Donald Trump is gone without all his shenanigans. I created a crazy show title. Just I'm going to be talking today about Donald Trump, of course. Also talking about the fight last night with Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson. Very interesting, some funny things, and just looking to see what's in the works. So this is really a show about people that are maybe in their second or third act. Donald Trump has lost most of his cases, I think 38 out of 40. This was his second act, I feel like, becoming president. And of course, he's talking about a third act where he's saying he wants to run again in 2024. God help us. So I wanted to start though, because one of the things that happened this week that I thought was a funny story was that one of the really large donors to the Donald Trump Debt Relief Fund, aka his campaign that is going into all these courtrooms to try to plead his case. That person has asked for a refund. They gave $2.5 million. I don't think that they gave his name, but they have requested a refund. And basically, it was because, they told you're going to be supporting this is part of the reelection campaign. These are some of the expenses that we have, and we're asking you to give towards that so we can go into court and win these cases. And when the person was asking for updates, they were giving him very vague updates, telling him that, there was going to be some arguments coming forth that were going to be very strong. And in that case, that might have been one of the ones in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin. They actually pulled back. And right before oral arguments were supposed to start, they just went ahead and conceded. So that's something that's going on this week. And I think it's people just really being able to read the tea leaves. But let Trump's daughter-in-law tell it. That is not the case. And so I'm going to show a little video here and then we'll talk about it. I love this music. Trump fights reality. So funny.
There are about 74 million people out there who do not feel like the result of this election that has been presented is accurate.
Okay, let me just stop right here. First of all, 74 million people who don't believe. Now, I understand that's how many votes that Trump got, but let's go ahead and be realistic. And this is part of the problem with the whole Trump atmosphere is we, just exaggerate things. 74 million people would mean every person who voted for Donald Trump now feels like that he needs to be fighting this fight, which is just not the case. I actually saw a Reuters Ipsos poll, and it said that half of the GOP people that they polled believe that he rightfully won. So they believe that Donald Trump rightfully won. So that's not even, let's just go ahead, that's not even 74 million. That's like 37 million, right? So that's the people who believe he rightfully won, that somebody cheated, and that he should be the winner. 73% of polled GOP people said that they believe that Joe Biden won, but they're about half of the people that polled say that they believe that Donald Trump rightfully won, right? So Joe Biden won. They concede that he got the most votes, but 53% believe that he cheated to get the most votes, which is ridiculous. But let's just keep watching this video because I like the things that Brian says, and then he says something at the end that I want to comment on.
Feel facts do not care about your feelings.
4 million people out there. 4 million. There are about 74 million people out there who do not feel like the result of this election that has been presented is accurate.
Feel facts do not care about your feelings.
And not only do facts not care about your feelings, I believe that there were Trump flags that said, fuck your feelings. So there's that.
That's what conservative commentator Ben Shapiro famously said several years ago. And it's still true today. The facts are the facts. Biden's win is being certified. This conspiracy crap is just like Trump's anti-media enemy of the people smear. It's a slow-acting poison that is crippling the American body politic.
And I want to also comment on that. It is most certainly a slow-acting poison, and this is why the GOP is having a hard time controlling the people, or not even controlling, but just really being able to be honest with the people who are his supporters. Because they've spent the last few years, even beyond the last 4 years, just poisoning the idea of government. I understand people have always been small government, but just the fact that you can't trust any institutions, you can't trust anything in terms of the military or, FBI, none of that stuff. And so it has been a slow-acting poison that they've done. And honestly, now they're dying from it because they are beholden to Donald Trump. And it doesn't matter how much people support him, it's not enough. And this is an example. I'm going to show you his lawyer who was talking, and then we'll talk about what happened to her.
What we are really dealing with here and uncovering more by the day is the massive influence of communist money through Venezuela, Cuba, and likely China in the interference with our elections here in the United States.
It's a shame that C-SPAN has to even cover that mess. You know, this lady who is, oh gosh, her name just escaped me just that fast. Sidney Powell. She was a lawyer on this Trump team where they're going and presenting all of these cases. I'm gonna do this because I've already talked to you about how the donor who gave $2.5 million is like, what's going on? You're telling me you got these great cases, you're asking me to donate money, and you aren't presenting this stuff, or it's failing. So why is it failing so badly? And why can't you give me answers about how my money's being used, and why isn't it being used effectively? It's a damn shame that this man is still duping millionaires at this point, after the failures of Trump University and all this stuff. But anyway, I digress. Let me go back to Sidney Powell. So she was one of the people who's been pushing a lot of the conspiracy theories. She was a lawyer on the Trump team. She was, most certainly, they were replaying her words and things like that on Newsmax, which is the ultra-conservative news program or news channel that's out right now because Fox News is not biased enough. I guess they've fallen into the lamestream media because they don't support Donald Trump, or they're telling him, this is the reality and asking people to face the reality, and they don't want to. So anyway, Sidney is one of the lawyers, and they have since distanced themselves from her, fired her. She just said all this stuff last week. You see Rudy Giuliani was right there. He didn't have any issues. It looked like he was smiling. So why all of a sudden has this woman been released from the team? She got up here, she spewed the lies, and as usual, after you get up here and you lie for Donald Trump and you put your reputation on the line, he throws you under the bus. And so, voila, Sidney Powell. But one of the things that's really awesome is Sidney is not alone. She is in very good company because Donald Trump has also gone after Brian Kemp, who is the governor of Georgia. So if you don't know Georgia, how can you not know? You must be living under a rock, right? But Georgia has a runoff. And so there are 2 Senate seats, and what's being held in the balance is the Senate. So I think right now it's like 49-50 or something like that. I can't exactly remember. But these two seats are still up for grabs. Everything else is basically settled. And this is for Senate. And there was a runoff for these two positions. And so that's going on in Georgia. And there's also been a recount. So the Secretary of State, his name is Brad Raffensperger, he, said, we certified the election, but if we're not recertified, but these are the results. If Donald Trump wants us to do it again because our Lord and Savior has asked us to recount, sorry, just irritated with that. But anyway, asked us to do a recount, so we're going to do it. So they recounted before, and Joe Biden was still the winner. I think Donald Trump maybe picked up 1,600 votes, and he was down by about 15,000. So what happened was the GOP went after the Republican Secretary of State. And in order to appease him, the Secretary of State, who is Brad Raffensperger, and the governor, Brian Kemp, has agreed to go ahead and count the votes again, because Donald Trump is still not satisfied because he's not the winner. So it must be wrong. Do it again. This is utter ridiculousness. But this is where we're at. So let me also add that this is Brian Kemp, the governor, who was one of the first governors to reopen up again after the lockdown that kind of went around nationwide. He was one of the first people to do it because he wanted to support the president. And so I just want to play a little bit about what Brian Kemp said today, or maybe in the last couple of days. This is actually from 11 Alive News in Atlanta. So just give me a quick second and we're going to pull that up.
The other folks do. I'd like to briefly just make a quick statement on elections so we can stay focused on COVID before this Thanksgiving holiday. As you all know, the president and his team requested a recount in the state of Georgia. That is now underway. I continue to stand with the president, and I support his decision to ensure that every legal vote is counted. I have followed the law, and I will continue to do so. And as stated during last week's remarks, I support a sample audit of signatures, strengthening the photo ID law as it relates to absentee voting, and I firmly believe that all voting irregularities need to be fully investigated. We should follow the law, and we should continue to put Georgians first.
Can we put Georgians first and not Donald Trump first? We're doing a third recount because Donald Trump is not satisfied with the outcome. I don't know if they filed cases here. I think here in the state of Georgia, I think that really what they've done is just try to put pressure on the governor and the Secretary of State, who are both Republican. The Secretary of State has come out and said, hey, I voted for him. My family voted for him. We donated money, but it is what it is. In the words of our, illustrious president, it is what it is. He lost. And Brad Raffensperger even went so far as, I think I read this in the Washington Post, he even went so far as to say that Donald Trump kind of shot himself in the foot because he was like, we had about 24,000 mail-in votes, but he told people not to use mail-in voting. They need to come out and vote. And a lot of people, are still concerned about COVID, don't really want to come out. And so he said that the mail-in ballots for Republicans seemed like it was down by about 10 or whatever it was. He said that he felt like Donald Trump telling people not to use mail-in voting hurt him in Georgia. And so, of course, he's lashing out because how can he be wrong? Donald Trump is always right, even though he's wrong so much of the time and he lies all the time. But here, he doesn't want to believe it. So let me see if there's any more on here that I wanted to hear you. But, I want you to hear how he's still, supporting Donald Trump.
I continue to stand with the president, and I support his decision to ensure that every legal vote is counted. The past several weeks, unfortunately, we've seen a lot of misinformation and more recently, quite honestly, baseless attacks that are absolutely absurd and accusations made against myself and my family.
And Brad Raffensperger.
These are ridiculous. They only seek to breed fear, create confusion, and sow discord amongst our citizens.
I think that's called the Trump playbook, right? Fear, discord, chaos. Sounds like his thing.
Now more than ever, we must stand up for the truth, and we have to unite around our shared values.
Now, see, this is what Brian is talking about. The slow poison that they have been supporting, allowing to come out, not being willing to really be honest with the people about what's going on. And now you talk about all this misinformation and the discord, and we need to all come together. Where was that talk? You're not even holding him accountable. After he says all this, hear the next part.
We must ignore those that want to divide us and find a way to overcome the challenges that we all face together. I'm committed to doing that, so thank you, and I'll be glad to open it up for some COVID-related questions.
I must have missed it. There was a part in there where he said that he continued to support the president. He believed, basically he wanted to let him know, hey, I'm still your guy, but this is just the facts of what's going on. Is just that you're not winning, and you're putting out a lot of information that is hurting the citizens. And it is hurting the citizens of Georgia because, you have the Republican senators going after the governor who has supported him wholeheartedly. And I guess he knows about this because earlier with the whole COVID thing, he stood with Donald Trump, said we're going to open up the state, and then Donald Trump threw him under the bus like 3 weeks later. So I guess he's just used to it. Maybe he ignores it. But so you heard what he said, that there is some misinformation out there, but he still supports Donald Trump. He voted for Donald Trump. But I need you to hear Donald Trump's response. This guy is all class, right? Just all class. This was a tweet. It said, President Trump lashed out at Georgia Governor Kemp and Georgia Secretary of State, so that's Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger, for not intervening, for not overriding the will of the American people. He got upset about that, right? For not intervening. Let's look and see what Donald Trump had to say. No class.
And they had judges making deals, and they had electoral officials making deals, like this character in Georgia who's a disaster. And the governor's done...
He's talking about his buddy Brian Kemp, who put Georgia citizens at risk when we were still very early on and we didn't really understand COVID. But he said, hey, we got to open up for the economy. He did it for him then, but Donald Trump's mantra is, I guess, disaster, chaos, and lies, as well as what have you done for me lately?
Nothing. He's done absolutely nothing.
Oh, he answered my question. Exactly. That's the problem. Oh, he's got a doozy, though. Let me add the next part.
I'm ashamed that I endorsed him.
Donald Trump. No class. Just no class. So after the governor supported him through COVID, ran some pretty controversial ads, as I recall. Also purged a lot of people from the voter rolls when he ran for governor, because this guy, Brian Kemp, used to be Secretary of State while he was running for governor. And while he was Secretary of State, he purged a lot of people from the rolls for, various things. It was definitely a big deal. That's why Stacey Abrams did what she did to create fair fight so that people couldn't be unnecessarily pulled off of voter rolls. And he's done all that for the Republican Party, for Donald Trump. I wouldn't say for the state, I wouldn't say for the country, but if that's the mantra they want to follow, he's done that. And that's how Trump rewards him. Let me see if I can get back to that specific part.
And they had judges making deals, and they had electoral officials making deals, like this character in Georgia who's a disaster. And the governor's done nothing. He's done absolutely nothing.
They haven't done anything to steal the election for me. It's amazing that this man is still keeping this up. It irritates the shit out of me, honestly. It just makes me so mad. It's definitely, as you can see, it's definitely a house divided. You have the senators who are against the governor and the secretary of state. I guess because they even have to do a runoff. So they're upset because they're like, this can't be real. And the whole thing is just that Donald Trump doesn't believe that people came out and voted against him. He's been divisive for many years. People have been protesting him the whole time. Yet he just finds, and he barely beat Hillary Clinton, who people didn't even like. She was probably one of the least liked candidates next to Donald Trump. And he barely eked out a victory. Barely eked out a victory. But after 4 years of you locking kids up in cages, of stoking racial division, not being willing to call out different groups, we're seeing rises in hate crime. He's done some things that are positive, but there's a lot of negative that offsets that. And he just can't believe somebody didn't vote for him. I just don't even understand that level of delusion, but that's where we're at. So I just wanted to say, let's... so tired of Donald Trump. I honestly don't even want to talk about him on here, but he's still relevant, so we have to. But what happened also this week is they did finally, they have not certified the election, but they have started to release things so that Donald Trump can, or so that Joe Biden's administration can get information, and just the holdup that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, that has now passed, and so he is getting access. Let me go back. I wanted to say something else about all this voter fraud that they're talking about and everything. The fact is, Republicans have been talking about election reform for a really long time. And they've been trying to do different things. They've been trying to, reduce early voting, creating voter ID laws, so many things. Like, they've been working on this, and things were just stepped up even more after, the last election, and we heard about election interference. But Brad Raffensperger basically came on and said, hey, I really want to make sure that people don't cheat. What you have to do is make sure you make the registration process something that's transparent, something that you can follow up and check on. And we've done all that. And so he says, with everything that we've done, all the positive things that we've done, we're not getting any credit for that. And they're just acting like we haven't done anything. And that's one of the things that ticks me off. We're still talking about what we got to do. We're still talking about election reform. And this has been a mantra for the Republican Party for at least, I think, 10 years. So it's been long enough, and probably even longer. It's been long enough. Why are y'all still bitching about this? Like, they talk about Joe Biden and how he's been around for so long and hadn't done anything. This has been a sole issue for you all for a really long time. And now you're telling me that the voter fraud is so widespread that he's lost by 7 million votes? Give me a break. Come on, bro. Really? Y'all been working on this. This is just like healthcare reform. Where is that? You've been trying to get rid of it, talk about how terrible it is. You have no plan. And in the case of election reform, you have a plan, you've implemented the plan, but because you just have shitty policies and you've lost, then all the implementation was for nothing, because clearly it's not working, because we lost. Like, that's the argument. We lost. We can't wrap our minds around it, so there must have been cheating. Gosh, that just made me sick. I am going to go to another topic. Yesterday was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, so it was the 28th, and there was a very highly anticipated fight between Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. And I actually watched the fight. There was a $50 fee for it. And these were people boxing under the new league that Mike Tyson is creating, which is the Legends Only League, which reminds me a lot of Ice Cube's Big Three, which are former players, former athletes who still have the skills, still have the talent, but want to play like a much more scaled down version of what they did when they were professionals. And so he's doing this for boxing. And so this new league, this was kind of their debut. They brought on some pretty heavy hitting sponsors as well. It seemed like a lot of them signed contracts at the last minute, but that's all good. I think Trillist was Triller. I think it's Triller. They paid about $50 million for the rights to the fight, so this wasn't like a typical Showtime, HBO, ESPN. This was Trillis who actually did this, and it's really interesting because you can see Mike Tyson's hands and branding in a lot of things. So this is like his second act. I wanted to just give you a description of what they said about this. Basically, they said that the league is open to not just fighters like Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., who are 54 and 51 respectively, not just people who aren't really fighting anymore, but also anybody who they say says you're too old, you're over the hill, but you still feel like you have it in you. I'm going to show you something that just, okay, we'll get to it in a minute, but this is his new venture. And he already has Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson, which is a podcast where they talk about a lot of things, and I think they also smoke weed in it because he has a very steeped interest in the cannabis business. And so it's nice to see somebody black profit off of that, because so many of our people are in jail off of that. But this is Mike Tyson's venture. There was a company called Weed Maps, which I thought for sure was his thing, but it wasn't. But it kind of tells you like where to get, like, I guess where dispensaries are and where you can get legal quality marijuana. And so they were one of the companies that sponsored, and they were talking about he's kind of done some things in conjunction with him because he's working on like a retreat destination kind of thing where I guess you can just go out there and I think Palm Springs, somewhere in California, and basically just chill out, all inclusive, and you can smoke weed. Oh, an all inclusive. Like, what if you don't get all inclusive drinks, but you can pick like any kind of herb you want or whatever? Like, that's just crazy. That pops off. Mike Tyson is going to do very well. And so I just wanted to bring it up because I just thought it was so exciting to see this person come full circle, like in so many ways. And I'm very proud of Mike Tyson, and that's why I wanted to put his logo up here. So he has a Legends Only League, and we're kind of see where that goes. I read an article where they were talking about, and I think that's where I pulled this from, where they were talking about how there's even opportunity with MMA, which he's very big into, to possibly get into this, because they were saying some of their more storied fighters have been having a really rough time lately. I mean, that's a lot of violence and just, a lot that comes at you. And so some of the people who were on top before are really having a hard time winning now, but these people want to keep fighting. So maybe to fight at a lower level, I guess, would allow them to continue on, allow them to continue to generate income, but not have to put their bodies and brains through so much physical torture. So yeah, that's the other thing that's going on. And so this was a comeback for Mike Tyson, because he actually had a chance to fight Roy Jones, and that fight was cool. It wasn't, it was exhibition. And I think from everything that we had seen to kind of build up the hype, I felt like I got my money's worth. There were several performers that performed. There were several undercard fights. 2 of them were really good. One of them I'm going to show you. It wasn't really good, but it was entertaining because of what happened. And then Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., which also went the full 8 rounds. It wasn't the best fight, but it was still kind of entertaining to watch. And then just to kind of imagine being 51 and trying to be out there, because I literally heard Roy Jones Jr. say his lungs were on fire. So, just to see them still kind of get out there and do it, even if they're not doing it the best. I watched the Big 3 League, and it's not like, the most amazing play, but it was still entertaining. So this is the same kind of thing. So we'll see where it goes. But another person who has had a second, third, fourth act, I don't even know how many acts Snoop Dogg has had. He is also somebody who was highlighted from last night because he's a commentator. And I'm going to play the clip that, a piece of the clip that he commentated. I think he did probably this fight and the next fight. But this is Nate Robinson, who used to play for the Knicks. He played for some other people as well. I can't quite remember. Short guy, but he won the dunk contest 3 times. Just a really great player, and apparently a really great athlete. He ran track, he played football, he was an NBA star, and so he also has been boxing. And so this is some clips from the fight from last night. Let me see here. I'm going to pull this up.
Take his time and be a little bit more patient and wait for it instead of trying to bring it, because he needs to fill him out first. It's the first round. Fill him out.
Guys, what are we going to do here?
Nate the dog, though. He's trying to get cracking, though. That's what we do in the hood. We just get cracking. We ain't got time for all that talking. What's happening?
Long Beach in the house.
Yeah, you've been popping all that on the Instagram. What's happening? I'm right up in front of you now. Get cracking like a breakfast egg.
And there's Jake Paul popping him with the right hand, but they continue to clinch and
they say protect yourself at all times. Ain't that what they say?
You betcha.
Oh!
And Jake Paul caught Nate Robinson on the way.
Good night, Irene.
Robinson goes face first.
Lord have mercy.
Okay, so you saw some of that. So when you hear about this fight, there were actually 3 different knockdowns. And so we're going to kind of watch it because it's only about a minute and a half. So round 1, he came out, Nate Robinson. He was fighting this man here. His name is John Paul, I think. And he is a YouTube star or boxer. I guess I don't know if he was knocking people out on YouTube. I honestly didn't do that research. This is only his second professional fight. And this is Nate's first professional fight. So you can kind of see, like, Nate comes out. He's very excited. He did that in the first round. I think they're going to show one of the knockdowns here that happened in the first round. Super aggressive, not really blocking. But, you know, you'll go ahead and hear it, and you'll hear what Snoop says about it. It's kind of entertaining. Okay, let me get this off of here for y'all. Sorry.
Oh, he got up.
Lead me on. Let me stand.
I can tell you the fight itself was great, but the fight itself was very good, but in Mike Tyson's in George Foreman, I mean, Jesus Christ, Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, their fight was also, you know, it was good, but this is really, I think, what made it for people. And so for $50, you got Wiz Khalifa performing, Snoop Dogg performing, French Montana, 2 other people, 2 other undercard fights that were really good. This fight, which ended in the second round, and Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. So it was just a really great night. Really proud of Mike Tyson. Really proud of Snoop Dogg. There's a lot of talk about people wanting to see him commentate more things, whether it's basketball or boxing. You know, it's a new day. You don't have to be a professional at everything. You got to be entertaining, know enough to be able to say what you're going to say, and that's it. So I just wanted to end it on that because that's something that was a lot of talk. It's been a crazy week that started with, you know, like I said, Sidney Powell getting fired, all this back and forth with the Trump campaign team of lawyers and Georgia and their donors and COVID Thanksgiving, and then we topped it off with this on Saturday, which was fabulous. So that's been the week. That's been the week 11/22 to 11/29, and hope you enjoyed it. I would love for you to subscribe to the channel, look at some other videos. I'm kind of working on the format, so just, you know, definitely subscribe so you can hear when I'm putting up new videos. And we'll be talking about mostly politics, but also some other things if it just goes with it or if it's entertaining. So thanks for tuning in today, and we will see you next week at 9 o'clock. And I will put up, if you follow me on my social media, I'll let you know if it's going to be a live show or if I'm just going to be putting up a video. Because until I can get people that I can really talk with and interact with in the chat box and stuff, right now I think I'm going to do pre-recorded videos until I build up more of a following. But definitely come check me out. The more you talk to me, the more we interact, and then the channel can grow and I can really do more of the content that I want to do. So until then, this is the Black White Liberal signing off. Take care.